The Knight's Tale, Part 2. Now when Arcita got to Thebes again, day long he languished, crying out in pain. Alas! For never could he hope to see his lady more. To sum his misery there never was a man so woe-begone, nor is, nor shall be, while the world goes on. Meat, drink, and sleep he lay of all bereft. Thin as a shaft, as dry, with nothing left, he pined away, his eyes were sunk and old, fallow of face, like ashes pale and cold, and he went solitary and alone, wailing away the night and making moan, and if the sound of music touched his ears, he wept, unable to refrain his tears. So feeble were his spirits and so low, and changed so much one could not even know him by his voice, one heard and was in doubt. And so for all the world he went about, not merely like a lover on the rack of Eros, but more like a maniac in melancholy madness, under strain of fantasy, those cells that front the brain. Briefly, his love had turned him upside down in looks and disposition, toe to crown. This poor, distracted lover, Prince Arcite, but I shall take all day if I repeat all that he suffered for the first 2 years in cruel torment and in painful tears at Thebes in his home country, as I said. Now he lay one night asleep in bed. The winged god Mercury, he thought, came near, and stood before him, bidding him have good cheer. His sleep-imbuing wand he held in air. He wore a hat upon his golden hair. Arrayed, Arcita noticed within the guise he wore when closing up the 100 eyes of Argus, and he said, "You are to go to Athens. There shall be an end to woe." He spoke. Arcita started and woke up. "Truly, however bitter be my cup, to Athens I will go at once," he said, "nor will I change my purpose for the dread of death, for I will see her. I can die gladly enough if she be standing by." He rose and snatched a mirror from its place, and saw what change had come upon his face, the color gone, the features redesigned, and instantly it came into his mind that being so disfigured and so wan, from the long sickness he had undergone, he might, if he assumed a humble tone, live out his life in Athens unbeknown, and see his lady almost every day. So on the spot he doffed his lord's array, and dressed as a poor laborer seeking hire, and all alone, except for a young squire, who knew the secret of his misery, and was disguised as wretchedly as he went to Athens by the shortest way, and came to court, and on the following day Arcita proffered at the gate for hire, to do what drudgery they might require, and briefly, there is little to explain, he fell in service with a chamberlain, who had his dwelling there with Emily. The man was cunning, and was quick to see what work the servants did, and which were good. Arcite could carry water and hew wood, for he was young and powerfully grown, a tall young fellow too, and big of bone, fit to do any work that was ordained. Thus, for a year or two, Arcite remained with Emily, the bright, her page of state, and gave it out his name was Philosterate, and half so well beloved a man as he, there never was at court of his degree. He was so much a gentleman by breed, he grew quite famous through the court indeed. And it would be a charitable notion, they said, if Theseus offered him promotion and put him in a service less despised, in which his virtues might be exercised. Thus in a little while his fame had sprung, both for good deeds and for a courteous tongue, and Theseus took him and advanced him higher, made him his personal and chamber squire, and gave him money to maintain his station. There came, moreover, men of his own nation, secretly year by year, and brought his dues. He spent them cunningly, these revenues, but honestly none wondered at his wealth. 3 years went by in happiness and health. He bore himself so well in peace and war, that there was no one Theseus valued more. I leave him there in bliss, though bliss is brittle, and turn to speak of Palamon a little. In darkness horrible and prison tears, poor Palamon has sat for 7 years. pining away in sorrow and distress, who feels a twofold grief and heaviness. But Palamon, the love-constrained, he sits as one that woe has sundered from his wits. On top of that, he was in prison due to stay there ever, not a year or two. Who could make rhymes in English fit to vie with martyrdom like that? Indeed, not I. Let me pass lightly over it, and say it happened in the 7th year in May, the 3rd of May. My ancient sources give this detail in their fuller narrative, whether by accident or destiny, for as events are shaped, they have to be. Soon after midnight, ere the sun had risen, helped by a friend, Palamon broke from prison, and fled the town as fast as he could go. A drink had proved his jailer's overthrow, a kind of honeyed claret he had fixed, with Theban opium and narcotics mixed. The jailer slept all night. He had been shaken. He would have been impossible. Had he been shaken, he would have been impossible to waken. So off runs Palamon as best he may. The night was short, and it was nearly day. So it was necessary he should hide in a grove that flanked the city's side. Palamon stalked with terror-stricken feet. Here was, in his opinion, a retreat in which he could conceal himself all day, and whence at nightfall he could make his way on towards Thebes and rally at his back a host of friends all eager to attack Duke Theseus. He would either lose his life or conquer and win Emily to wife. That was his whole intention, fair and plain. I turn my story to Arcite again. He little knew how close he was to care, till fortune brought him back into the snare. The busy lark, the messenger of day, sings salutation in the morning gray, and fierce Phoebus, rising up so bright, sets all the Orient laughing with the light, and with his streams he dries the dewy sheaves, and silver droplets hanging on the leaves. And now Arcita, at the royal court, principal squire to Theseus, seeking sport, has risen from bed and greets the merry day, thinking to do observances to May, and musing on the point of his desires, he rode a courser full of flickering fires into the fields for pleasure and in play, a mile or two from where the palace lay, and to the very grove you heard me mention he chanced to hold his course, with the intention to make himself a garland. There he weaves a hawthorn spray and honeysuckle leaves, and sings aloud against the sunny sheen, O month of May, with all thy flowers green, welcome be thou, O fairest, freshest May. Give me thy green in hope of a happy day. Quickly dismounting from his horse, he started to thrust his way into the grove, light-hearted, and roamed along the pathway on and on, until he came by chance where Palamon crouched in a bush, scarce daring to draw breath, lest he be seen in deadly fear of death. He little thought Arcite had come in view. God knows he could not have believed it true, but it was well said for many a year, the fields have eyesight and the woods can hear. It's good to keep one's poise and be protected, since all day long we meet the unexpected. Little indeed did Arcita, truth to say, thought Palamon was listening to his lay, crouched in a bush and keeping very still. Presently, where Arcite had roamed his fill, and sung his rondel, he began to brood, and fell at once into a sombre mood, as do these lovers in their quaint desires, now on the spray, now down among the briars, now up, now down, like buckets in a well, just like a Friday morning, truth to tell, shining one moment, and then raining fast. So changy Venus loves to overcast the hearts of all her folk. She, like her day, Friday is changeable, and so are they. Seldom is Friday like the rest of the week. And when he sung, Arcite began to speak, sighingly, sinking down as one forlorn. Alas, he said, the day that I was born! How long, O Juno, in thy cruelty, wilt thou be harrowing Thebes with misery? Thou hast confounded those that played the lion, the royal blood of Cadmus and Amphion. Cadmus, the first men to win renown by building Thebes, or first in laying down her strong foundations, first to be crowned her king. And I that share his lineage, I that spring by right descent out of the royal stock, have fallen captive and am made a mock, slave to my mortal enemy no higher than a contemptible menial squire. Yet Juno does me even greater shame. I dare no more acknowledge my own name. Time was, Arcita was my name by right. Now I am called Philostrate, and not worth a mite. Alas, fell Mars, ah Juno stern of face, you have destroyed our kin without a trace, save for myself and Palamon, who dwells in martyrdom, poor wretch, in Theseus's cell. On top of this, to slay me utterly, the fiery dart of love so burningly thrusts through my faithful heart with deadly hurt. My death was shaped for me before my shirt. You kill me with your eyes, my Emily. You are the cause that brings my death to me. All the remainder of my cares and needs I'd rate no higher than a mound of weeds. But, or could I but please or earn a grateful glance? And on the word he fell into a trance, a long, long time, then woke and moved apart.